Aren't you all confused on how resume speaks in a different countries? Then this video is definitely for you. The purpose of the video is to educate all of you how resumes can be tailored according to the country standards and make sure you don't make any blunder mistakes. So let's get started. The first and foremost point is to understand whether the country that you are applying for accepts pages. For example, they accept only a single page or two pages or even multiple pages of resume. So for example, the US they prefer all of us to have a resume which is just one page. So ideally they need resumes that are just one page so that the recruiters can scan the resume in a much more faster pace, and since they are busy, as everyone knows. But similarly, if you see countries like Canada, they at least go further with another additional page which is a two-pager resumes. So if, for example, when you are a person with a lot of experience, for example a 10-year experience, 15 years experience, you cannot jot down your points within a single page, right? So that's when you can extend another page, your resume, to another page and highlight all the important points. So I feel Canada has a much more flexible format there. For some of the Asian country like India, for example, right from my bachelor's degree, I have tailored resumes which includes personal level of information. For example, we do have photos, we do provide our personal information like age, our marital status, and certain things that are very common in India. But however, these details are not supposed to be mentioned in any of the other countries that I mentioned earlier, because they term it as to be a kind of a discrimination. Basically, they want to only know what is your professional skills and experience. So that's a very big difference that I have seen from India and rest of the Western countries. Another very important section that I would like to say here is all the other countries except India, I have seen they provide a summary section. They ask the candidates to have a summary section, which is basically a summary of what you are and what have you done. For example, your education, some key insights that help the hiring managers or the recruiters can to understand your resume in a much better pace. But this has not been a usual norm in Indian resume format. But I have seen worldwide this has been acceptable. Having a summary section at the top of your resume will definitely help in getting the eyes of your recruiter or the hiring manager. The another common trait that I've seen across all the resume formats in several countries is that they encourage volunteer opportunities. So if you have volunteered in a non-profit organization or in any organization, as in gaining experience or that you want to pursue further, so a lot of recruiters from all the countries, irrespective of any specific European or Western or Asian countries, they all want to see what the volunteer opportunities. So this section is very important. I was not aware of this section until I have started studying what are the different resume formats for different countries. So having a volunteer opportunities tells the recruiter that this particular person is interested in expanding their skills, and not just in a 9 to 5 job or in a self study, but they also like to experiment the skills in several other projects. So definitely make sure that you have your volunteer projects listed out, and this will definitely catch the eye of your recruiter or hiring manager. The final differences that I've noticed is if you are applying for a country which do have a second language like other than English, the recruiters or the hiring manager would like to know whether you know that language. For example, in Asian countries such as Korea and South Korea or any other countries, they want you to know whether you know their national language. And in terms of Canada, French is also a language that's spoken widely. So they want to know if you are well versed or expert in that language. If you can mention your language expertise there, that will definitely enhance your resume apart from the other candidates. So specifying your language abilities in terms of the particular country that you are searching for, that will also help a lot. So now that we have gone through how the resume formats change according to the specific countries, Now let's go over on what are the do's and don'ts for while preparing your resumes. So the first and foremost point is always to make sure your fonts are consistent across every lines that you mentioned. For example, heading font headers could be in a different format, while the running paragraphs could be in other format. So always make sure your fonts are consistent and professional. For example, Times New Roman are considered to be the most commonly used and professional font. So always make sure that you are using a professional font. The second point that I would like to mention is when you are providing your uh, resume is just a paper format of you telling the recruiters that you have certain skills that will be suitable for the particular job. So you need to mention a section called skill, wherein you have to be specific with what the tools you have knowledge on, or the skills. For example, in data science you can mention coding languages like Python, SQL, R, and working on tools such as Tableau, Power BI, and work and have an experience on machine learning algorithms like logistic regression, like linear regression, decision trees, and several. So you have to be specific with the experience that you are trying to showcase, and make sure it matches with your job requirement. So always have a specific skills section in your resume. Third point, or rather the most important point, I should have mentioned this in the first as the first point, is to make sure your job resumes are ATS approved. ATS is nothing but the application tracking system. So in every job applications, the recruiters or the hiring managers uses a specific automated tool that recognizes the words that match the job requirement. So this helps them to basically help them iterate or filter those resumes that they need to take care of. Instead of going through manually each the resumes, this will help them to filter out and make sure you have your resume tailored according to the job requirements, because basically ATS is a scoring system where it matches the words that are present in your resume and the words that are present in the job requirement. The more matches are there, the better the score. So they basically they basically filter out based on the score. So for example, out of 100, if the score of your resume math score of your resume is 80 and above, or at least 75 and above, the ATS system will select your resume for the next rounds, or at least that resume will be selected to the recruiter, to be shown to the recruiter. If your resume is below 30 or below 75, 70 or 60, it will get filtered out and never reach the eyes of the recruiters, and obviously you get that automated "we regret to inform you" message. So this is a very important tip, guys. Always tailor your resume according to the job requirement and make sure it gives a better score in using an ATM system. And for example, there are several ATM systems available online. We have Resume Worded, we have JobScan, and several more, but the free versions are really not that good. You can only use a single trial, but the premium versions are really good. You can check the description box where I will be providing links for those sites as well. This is again a repetitive point that I've already mentioned before, is always mention your social work. Social work in the sense the volunteer work that you have done. So this could be any work related to the job. For example, you might have you might have led a project and it showcase how you have led a project in terms of leadership skills, or basically in a team environment. And secondly, you might have also did an hands-on project on a machine learning project or an AI project. This could help you to showcase that, see, I'm not even just doing my job, I'm also expanding my learning curve as I'm working on a different projects that is a volunteer project. So always make sure that you provide information regarding your social work or volunteer projects. And the last but not the least, there are certain resumes that ask you for reference. So in India, we do have sections for references, like at least they ask us for 2 references. So make sure you have people across to help to provide you with their contacts. So always make sure you at least have 2 people within your side, so that you can give their contacts when asked about references. So if asked, always make sure you have your references prepared and ready. Now that we looked into the 5 do's, let's also check what are the don'ts that we need to make sure it's not on our resume. The first and foremost is I see across some of the LinkedIn posts for job opportunities that's asking for job opportunities are their resumes are a bit of fancy kind of thing. There are several tools coming up showcasing how you can showcase your resume in a fancy style such as Canva, but these are all good to showcase in a LinkedIn post or when you're talking about it. But ideally, when you are submitting for an application, these fancy resumes do not much help. For example, as I already mentioned in the do's, that there is an application system that tracks your resume based on the keywords and the job requirements. When your resume is a fancy kind of style with bulletings and with bar charts and photos or any styles that is been there in your PDF document, the ATS system essentially cannot parse the document, so this will affect the score. So in ideology is to have your score parsed through ATS and reach to the eyes of the recruiter. So it doesn't matter if you have a 10 years of valid experience, but if your resume is kind of fancy with bar charts with certain pictures that is kind of nice to see, although ATS does not see those things, it only look into the keywords. So please make sure that your resumes are not fancy and have it a standard resume format so that you have your resume passed through the ATS system. The second information could be relevant to the North American or Canadian or any Western countries format, whereas you do not have to mention your personal information. Now I would say in India it's changing a bit. Nowadays we are not going to mention our age or marital status. Or the ideal thing is to not mention any personal information. At the max you can mention your address or your contact number or your email ID, because those things are required to make sure that for them to contact you back for a potential interview. So please do not mention any personal information such as age, marital status or race. Third tip I would like to mention here is, and something that I've recently learned, is to avoid passive verbs, and rather use active verbs. So active verbs in the sense something that you have made actions upon. So for example, you have developed a model or you have built a dashboard. So these are the verbs that you can use to make it like you are, it's an active verb rather than a passive verb. So this gives an idea for the recruiters and your hiring managers to showcase that okay, this person has really done something, and it gives a notion that you are aware of, you do have the valid experience as well. So please make sure that you do not use passive words and passive voice or and use only active voice. So the last tip here is to avoid errors or lies. So errors in the sense, please avoid please avoid any spelling issues or grammatical error. If at all you have any spelling errors or grammatical errors, it won't look good in the eye of the recruiters, right? So please make sure your resumes are perfect in that sense. And another thing is, never ever lie in your resume, because whatever you have written in your resume will be tested upon. And make sure you are only writing things that you have worked and you know. If you claim that you know certain information which is entirely false, and if one they ask you, it's going to come out, it's definitely going to come out, either you won't feel confident speaking about it, so that's not good. So do not lie on your resume. Provide all the valid information so that you are confident in your interview. So that is all, guys. I hope these tips are really useful and helpful. If you feel this video would be helpful for some others, please do share it to your friends or colleagues or whomever you would like to share it to. And like, share and subscribe if you like to support me. Until next video, bye.